Okay, today we're doing a YouTube video on how to rebuild your most basic style Tecumseh carburetor. They are on everything from generators to lawnmowers to snow blowers to go-karts. Just there's so many applications for these things, but they're all the same for the most part. So this is one of the basic ones. This has this type of primer ball. Open that for me, Mike. There's different primer balls. There's one that's a Premier that has a round primer ball. There's ones that have this kind of primer ball, and then there's ones that actually have this kind of primer ball and they have a little plastic housing with a spring behind them. This one doesn't have that, but you want to make sure that you get the right primer ball. Don't use a mix match one because they won't work properly. So this is the most common style. This was actually off of a Toro lawnmower with a Tecumseh flathead engine. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to make sure that when you this carburetor, I've already went through it. Like, I basically pulled everything apart and I cleaned everything up, so I'm going to be putting everything back together, and I thought it'd be a wonderful opportunity to do a video to show everybody else basically what's involved and how to properly go through this, so that way you don't run into any complications. So you want to make sure that when you clean this thing moves back and forth really easy, because if it won't, then your lawnmower is not going to run properly. You want to make sure that you clean. There's a main jet that's down right here in the very bottom, and you want to stick the straw in there with some carburetor cleaner and blow this out to where the fluid sprays out the bottom. To get the primer ball off the old one, you can use any pointy devices, and you basically just get behind the metal clip and then just pull it out. There's also a plastic cap that goes right on the front, right below the primer ball down here on the bottom left hand corner, and you want to remove that cap, and there's a flathead screw that you want to pull out, and that's your main jet, and that's this thing right here, and that sits down inside of there. So you want to make sure that you remove that. You want to, I use a wire brush wire to get down inside of here to clean it, because you can't really see it too good, but there's a really small fine hole, and if this gets clogged up, your engine won't run right, so, or run at all. So you want to make sure that you clean that. There's a tube that's plastic, and they're red and blue and white. They go inside right here. This one sits in there like that, just down inside the carburetor. I stick a flathead screwdriver and I wedge it down inside and pop it out, and then you can get it to release right out the bottom. There's two O-rings that are very important. They go, one's on the top up here and another one's located down here on the bottom, and I have those O-rings right here. Okay, there and there. This one was in a bag, I just took it out, and these are Tecumseh parts, and you can order the parts online or from any dealer, or you can just go on my eBay website and get them from me if you need them. But anyway, you want to make sure you replace those O-rings, because if you do not, then the rubber is always hard and little chunks get clogged in your fuel system and causes your carburetor to start surging. So it's very important to make sure that you pull this tube out, and you want to make sure you replace the O-rings. You want to get, for a rebuild kit, it's going to consist of a needle in a seat, which is in here, and then you have your bowl gasket, and then you have a seal that goes on the bottom of your main jet, which is right here, that goes onto your bowl. Then you want to get two O-rings. So you have this kit that comes together. This is Tecumseh, and you can see the part number. I think it's 631021, and that's the most common rebuild kit. For these style of carburetors, keep in mind Tecumseh has many different ones, but this will fit all the Tecumseh carburetors. The most basic ones for lawnmowers. It will not do some of them, but if the carburetor looks like this, then you know that that's going to be your rebuild kit. You want to submerge these in water once you clean them and make sure that there's no cracks in them when you're going through them, because they commonly go bad. If there's any fluid in them at all when you shake them, then you know that it needs to be replaced. And this is called your bowl. There's more parts than that. Or, I'm sorry, it's called a float. That's your bowl. And then you got, these are your primer balls. And then I don't know, what other parts do you need? To go through this carburetor, it takes about 3 cans of carburetor cleaner. You can get out with 2 if you're pretty good. And then this goes with that. So what else? What else do I want to make sure we explain before we got started? Oh, make sure that this doesn't twist. I didn't replace this because it's good, but this is your fuel knob, and basically, if you need this replaced, just shoot me an email. I'll do another video on how to do it. But if it twists back and forth, then it's bad, and you need to replace it. So they're like $7. That's what they cost me here in America, in the United States and Las Vegas. All right, Mike, hold that, and then I'll go ahead and do what I'm doing, and then they can see what I'm doing here. So first thing I'll do is put on the primer ball. To get on the old one, you just stick a something pointy. I use a pointy device like dental equipment, and I just get behind it, and then it pulls this metal clip back, and then you can just pull the primer ball right off. When I go to put it on, the first thing that I do is I just take my fingers and put it like that, and then I twist this to where it's like twisted on, and then I grab a basic flathead screwdriver. I push one end here, put it into the bottom, push another end, and then do the sides, and then start working your way all the way around it, just to make sure that you got it in all the way. Some of these primer balls they're round, and those are for the premiers, and then some of them are like this, and they have a plastic clip behind it, and they have a spring behind the clip. This one does not have that, but just be wise that if you don't, you want to put it together exactly the way that it came apart, because they are slightly different, and if it has that plastic piece behind there and you don't have it in there, it's not going to pump properly. So this one doesn't have it, so you don't need it. This was the primer ball that came off. You just want to make sure basically that you use the same primer ball that you took off, and that you make sure you put the plastic clip with the spring in there if equipped. Okay, so these tools are real handy. It's just a Tecumseh tool. It's basically for removing the seats out of the carburetor. If you don't have that tool, which I didn't for many years, you can get in there with just pointy tools. They sell at AutoZone, or just basically a real small flathead screwdriver, or any kind of pointy tools can get in there to pull that out. So this here is the basic rebuild kit. The first thing I'm going to do is install the seat. This is your seat right here, and I always put this side down when I do them. So what I'm going to do is take, this is my tool, my little handy tool. If you don't have this tool, then you're going to use a drill bit. And I brought one for example. You just use the back end of the bit, and then you basically just use the bit to push inside the carburetor here. Show here, as you see, how they understand, like you put it there, and then you push this in to set it. If you don't have that, then you use a drill bit, and then you just work the drill bit in there to push this down to seat it in there. So we're going to seat this, and because I have this handy dandy tool, it just makes it real slick. So you can see I got this end up. Okay, so we'll just push that in there. And then I shake it around and make sure it's all the way in there to the bottom. Not pushing too hard. Okay, so you can see that's how you seat that. And then this here should have another spring. There it is, it's still inside the bag. So I take this, put that in there like that, push that through. And so that's how that works, and then that goes right on the back side of the bowl. You shouldn't have to adjust this. If you do have to adjust the float, it should just sit slightly down at a slight angle down, in a down position. The Briggs and Stratton sit level, but the Tecumsehs always sit down just a little bit. This here is your adjuster. You bend this up and down, this tab, and then that can adjust your float level. So just leave it alone. You shouldn't have to mess with it, but it should sit slightly down. So I just set that on there like that, and then I pick this up, and then I basically swing it around to where it'll fit in there until that just seats in, and then I flip it over, and then I grab this thing. And you want to clean this up with carburetor cleaner real good. And when you clean it with carb cleaner, like I say, you clean that main hole right down there. And when you pull this off, just clean out all the holes. But that's your main one down in there. And then you want to make sure, like I said, you get this clean to where you don't see any stuff in there. You should see nice and clear metal all down inside. And then you slide this across like that, and then your float should sit like just at a slight pitch downward, and that's actually just right. And then you can test it by putting your lips on this. If you lick your lips, seems good. You shouldn't have any airflow. It should be a perfect seal when you push down, and also the needle should sit pretty flush down inside the carburetor. And like I said, you should also have a slight pitch on the bowl where it sits down at just a little bit of an angle downward. So seems good. So that's how we test it, make sure that we've seated the seat properly with the needle in the bowl. So now we take this and like use a wire brush, and I use the ends to get in here and clean this end, and then I clean this out with a wire brush, and then I blow through it and make sure with carburetor cleaner, make sure that it's all nice and clear, and it is. So, and that goes right here on the front, so I just put that in there. And there's a plastic cap that covers that, and you got to pull that cap off to gain access to this. If you don't clean that, then your lawnmower is probably not going to run real good, or whatever you're working on. And I just take the bowl, and I put the bowl right there, and then I grab these. And these are the O-rings, and these damn things are expensive. They want like $1 and something a piece, which is a hell of a lot of money, I think, for a little O-ring, but it is what it is. They're a specialty size, so I always order them. So one goes here, and then the other one goes right here on this back end. Okay, now I want to straighten that out just a little bit because I bended it a little bit getting it out. I don't think it's going to affect it, but I just like to straighten it before I put it back in there, because sometimes the tips on the flatheads can put just a little bend in the plastic. But you got to get them out. It's real important. So this goes in just like that. There's 2 O-rings, one there and one there. And you want to make sure you get all the old O-ring out of there, because they'll sit in there, and then those little pieces will get in there and clog up your fuel system. So you push that down, and it'll go. And then once you get it seated that far, what I do is I grab the screw that goes on the bottom, and then you can just thread it down with that, and then that'll keep it to where it's in there real good. And then you look and you see that the pipe is threaded all the way down, and there's 3 different colors. There's red, there's white, and then there's blue, so you want to make sure you use the right tube. Anyway, they both have the O-rings no matter what the color is, so you just want to make sure that you change them. And then you want to make sure that you put this bowl on properly, because if you look, you'll notice that there's a rounded area here, and that's where the bowl dips down in here, and then there's a little piece that sits right here, and that's there intentionally to hold the bowl, and the bowl touches that. So what you want to do is you want to make sure when you line it up that you use your brain and you go, oh, okay, so that sits like that, so that needs to go like that. Because if I have it the other way like this, then the bowl's not going to be able to drop down. So the bowl has to match with the alignment of the float. So it goes just like that. Now to test that, all you got to do is just push it on, make sure it goes all the way around your rubber gasket, and then you should be able to shake it and hear the shake. But you just put your lips here and make sure that this doesn't move, because if it does, it could leak. And you can see that it opens and closes as it goes back and forth. So I've tested it, so I know for sure that everything is just fine. So then here's my bowl screw gasket, so we'll put that on there. Now on these here, they're kind of tricky. you have a hole that runs down here in the bottom that people can see, and then obviously you have to clean out the inside. But then, wouldn't you know it, that they put a little tiny hole that's so damn tiny, and if you didn't know it was there, then you wouldn't know it. And if that hole isn't clean there on the top, then when you start up your lawnmower, it's going to run and this is going to die out. So you want to make sure that that little teeny tiny hole right there on the very top is clean. And then I just use a wire brush, and I just get the little tip from the wire brush and push it through until I know that it's clear, and then I clean it with carburetor cleaner. So you want to make sure that it's clean out here through, the center through, and then that hole right there, that little tiny hole. So once you've done that, oops, I'm getting happy. Let me line that up again. So. You want to make sure it sits flush all the way around it, to where you put your finger on the back and it makes a seal. And you always want to test it and make sure. And then you just take this and put this down on there. And you tighten this up. And then you should be able to test it. And that's perfect. And so that's pretty much it for rebuilding these. The main thing is to remember you have to get to this here, this screw, and that's your jet, and then you have the main hole down here you have to clear. Make sure the nozzle's nice and tight and doesn't have any play. Replace it with the same primer ball, and make sure you line your bowl up when you put it on, and you want to make sure that you replace your needle and seat and your primer ball. And the main thing is, see that red tube? We got to pop that red tube out and make sure that you replace those 2 rubber O-rings in that red tube. And then once you've done that, and make sure that this has got nice flexibility in it, you're done. And this here is your throttle. You just take this clip and bend this back and forth, and that's how you adjust the throttle on the mower or whatever you're running. So that's pretty much it for a basic carburetor rebuild. I just basically will do a video as I continue to do the other carburetors, and I'll update with that information as it comes. So just shoot me any emails or anything if you have any questions, and hopefully you got some good information out of this. So, alright.